Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live with Dr. MC Misra. And we've choicefully named our session today COVID-19 Vaccination Simplified. Because I know all of you have a lot of doubts about the vaccination, and that is why we've got an expert on board who can help us with the answers. 2020 has been a year synonymous with COVID 19, but 2021 started with a lot of hope because of the hope for normalization that things will get back to normal. And a big reason for this optimism is the vaccinations. But despite this positivity, there are still doubts in people's mind. Is the vaccination safe? Should I get vaccinated or not? Which one should I take? Will it be effective on the new strains? And so many more doubts. To answer all your queries today, we have a veteran from the field of medical sciences, Dr. MC Misra. Dr. Misra is the former director of All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi. Dr. Mishra, thank you so much for joining us on this Facebook Live session and
Thank
giving up the
you.
time for it. So, Dr. Mishra, yesterday was a landmark day with the Prime Minister himself taking the shot, right? And people are very hopeful, with the vaccination because I think the last 1.5 years, people have been, inside their houses, or even when they're outside, they have, kind of been distant from their family, their friends, and the fear of so many other things that are happening around coronavirus. So the year has been full of a lot of restraints and tensions and fears. But now there seems to be some hope, especially with the vaccination opening up to private hospitals. Also, people are hopeful that, I'm going to be in line soon. So, sir, before we get into, anything, just before this Facebook Live session, we were talking that why don't we first explain people what is a vaccination, sir, and how is it different than, medication that people take? So, starting from the basics, could you, for me also, can you explain how does a vaccination really work? And especially right now, the kind of options that we have, the ones that are going to come up soon for COVID-19, how do they work differently? How does each work differently? Which one is better? So that eventually we are able to decide better on the vaccination. So over to you.
Okay, thank you, Tanya, and welcome everyone whosoever is logged in by now. As it's a very relevant question Tanya has put forward, that is, what is vaccine and how does it work actually? So, basically, vaccine, as we all know, and all of you know, that in our childhood, uh, we all got vaccinated against various pathogens, which are bacteria and viruses. For example, common vaccination we still get for tetanus toxoid when we get injury and we feel that it might be contaminated. That's a bacteria. Or diphtheria, pertussis, and then you must have heard some of you who have children and they were vaccinated against what we call MMR, mumps, measles, rubella, and also uh, you must be hearing about polio vaccination drive and eradicating the polio. We eradicated the smallpox long time ago in 1975 from India after mass vaccination program because smallpox epidemics were happening. And then we have vaccines against like cholera, yellow fever, now Zika virus, for example, chikungunya, and then rotavirus in children for diarrheal diseases in developing world. And naturally, it is relatively simpler to develop a vaccine against bacteria. Its bacteria are more stable pathogen than viruses, and that too RNA virus. So COVID virus, the coronavirus, COVID-2, which we call, is a RNA virus. And once our body is infected with this virus, body react and try to fight off this virus. So what that is body's defense mechanism. Whenever we get any infection, whether bacterial or viral, body reacts immediately and try to fight off that virus or bacteria. And in the process, if our immune system is not so strong, then it makes us very sick in that process. So without a vaccine, if this happens, then naturally we lose many lives and we suffer the disability. You might have come across some individuals. Of course, now smallpox is not happening, but then it leaves a lot of scarring of the face, and other the smallpox used to leave a lot of scarring on the face because these are the rashes which uh, people would develop. So basically, our immune system, basically what it does, the virus, which is in this case, it's the coronavirus COVID-2, which we popularly call it, enters the our body through nose and mouth, pharynx, basically upper airway tract. And that's why it is a droplet-led infection. It is not airborne in that sense, but naturally it needs some, if the distance is less, it travels that much distance. And when we speak, there are droplets coming out of our
Right.
mouth with saliva. And with that virus particles, if we are very close without mask, they enter our airway tract through nose and mouth commonly. And then body recognizes this virus as a foreign object, this pathogen. And then immune cells of our body engulfs this virus and traps this virus so that it cannot no longer replicate into the body and avoids harm. But that doesn't happen always in everyone. And this engulfing cell, we call it a antigen presenting cell, APC, because it displays the viral protein uh, known as antigen after engulfing the virus. And that is what antigen test is all about. The display activates the T cells. T cells are our immune cells, which examine this antigen and then alert the B cells. There are some cells, immune system has these two types of cells, T cell and B cells. And B cell actually are alerted against this intruder, and both these immune cells multiply. So it is a balance between these immune cells versus the viral particles.
Okay.
So if the viral particles dominate, then we get the disease. If the immune cells dominate, then we deal with that infection. So some people have, like, you have seen that COVID infection through all this 1 year has a spectrum. We have on the one spectrum, we have a totally asymptomatic individual who has no symptom practically, no body ache, no rash, no headache, no cough, no fever, nothing. On the other hand, we have very severe patients requiring ICU care, admission into a hospital. So these immune cells, when they multiply and they dominate, then they are memory cells and form the basis of the body's long-term immunity to the coronavirus. And that is what this vaccine does. So the protein which is on the surface of this COVID coronavirus is, we call it spike protein. And the memory cells of the body, they remember this protein. So as and when this virus attacks, it will recognize and not let these viral particles to enter our cells into the airway as well as in the lungs. So these copied cells get work immediately. B cells start making antibodies that match the antigen presented by these viral particles. And APC, what I mentioned before.
Yes, sir.
And these antibodies then do not let the virus, and they actually engulf the virus and neutralize this virus to prevent it from entering the cells, and they replicate and they make more copies to further provide the defense. So the whole process is the body's primary immune response to this virus, and it can take some time for the immune system to recognize the intruder and stop it from multiplying. But it doesn't happen as easily as I told you. So some of us, we get symptoms, as I told you, the spectrum, we can get chills, we can, if it affects the lungs, then we have shortness of breath. When it affects the muscles, then we have sore muscles, and some people have a lot of muscle ache and lethargy and weakness. then cough, and then sore throat, the irritation in the throat, loss of taste and smell. It affects the uh, nerve endings through this nasal entry, and then you heard that people lost of taste and smell. Of course, it is temporary, and if it is severe enough, then people get fever also, and sometimes this fever may last and may not respond. So the incubation period for this is from 2 days to 14 days generally.
Mm.
So there are almost six approaches to a vaccine. And vaccine, when it is given this injection, basically it trains the body to generate a protective immune response. Uh, and a vaccine introduces a version of the virus to the body that is less harmful, and it will not cause severe symptoms. It may cause mild symptoms, as we all are saying all the time, that it may give. So there are six main types of vaccines which are under development, and about 250 vaccine candidates actually are under development. So the first one, which has been there for a long time, this vaccine development platform, what we call these platforms on which the vaccines are developed. And one may ask why these vaccines have been developed within a year when any typical vaccine development takes from 5 to 10 years. Right. So I must tell you that the vaccines which have been developed have undergone the same trials, just cutting short their duration. And there are some questions we still do not have the answers. I'll tell you those questions against which we do not have answers yet for these vaccines also which are in use. So the first and common type of vaccine is the live attenuated virus. So live attenuated virus is something, the original virus, this is the Bharat Biotech. Covaxian is formed from the live real virus, COVID-2 virus, and it's basically severe, is its illness producing strength is some way either through chemicals or with radiation is brought down, and that is what we call live attenuated viral vaccine. And that is why we are saying that since these RNA viruses keep mutating, you must have heard a term, lot of discussion that these viruses also, this COVID virus also has shown a lot of mutations in UK, in Africa, and in India also. But generally, these mutations are categorized into drift. Small drifts happen. So this, like a spike protein has numbers. Okay. So these mutations are very common with RNA viruses, but not all mutations are dangerous, or they don't produce a more virulent virus. So they still remain close to the original virus, but occasionally there is a total shift when these mutations happen, and that can change the whole character of that virus. So that is the first vaccine. So basically, mutation may create a weaker virus also. It may create a stronger virus also. So if it is creates a weaker virus, it will not create any harm to the body. But if it is a stronger one, it will create more harm, as has been seen with some mutations lately. Now, the other one is we totally inactivate the virus with chemical or heat and radiation. But those proteins remain, which can be identified by our T cells and B cells. So inactivated vaccine is produced by disabling a virus through these methods. Then the inactivated virus naturally cannot cause the disease because it has been inactivated, but it can invite body's defense system to react, identify that protein, and even if they enter the cell, they will not replicate and they will not cause the disease. The third type is the what we call protein subunit, and since there are a lot of proteins on the surface of these viruses, they contain a piece of or subunit of a coronavirus antigen. This is what we call antigen. So these are the most commonest type of vaccine which are under development now, and they do not contain any other part of the virus, so they cannot replicate the protein subunit vaccines. Then there are some virus-like particles which are also used to make these vaccines. And so common, what I would say, these vaccines which are in use in India particularly, basically are the vector like adenovirus. The Covishield vaccine is prepared from a virus which is like a coronavirus, but it is not actually coronavirus, and it has been used to create that kind of a body defense when we give this vaccine to the body. On contrary, Covaxian, the Bharat Biotech is formed by the whole virus, virion, what we call. And then in COVID times, we also have known that this mRNA vaccine, you must have heard this Moderna and Pfizer, both have made, these are synthetic vaccines actually. So they have taken the RNA and then they have, in the lab, they have created this RNA of this virus so that when it is given to the body, it again generates the same defense mechanism. In India, the Cadila is coming up with a DNA vaccine, DNA plasmid vaccine. Again, it is this for the first time. It has never been used before. So are the RNA vaccines, which have not been used so far. So these DNA or RNA, this code is inserted into the human cell, which then uses the genetic instructions to make this antigen. And the immune system can then produce antibodies that will recognize that antigen to fight off the virus. So this is in basically, and like DNA and RNA virus, viral vector vaccine, which is the Covishield, contain again instructions for making a coronavirus antigen. And that's how this works. So these instructions are carried into the human cell by a harmless virus like the adenovirus, as I mentioned, and which is a common cold virus actually. But so these are the 6 types of vaccine development which is taking place. Currently, there are almost 250 vaccine candidates are under preparation, but only some of them have gone into the clinical trials. Around 40 or so have gone into the clinical trials, and out of that, you must have heard a lot of about Pfizer, Moderna. Recently, again, US FDA has approved another Johnson vaccine, and then 2 of our own, and Sputnik is on the trial, Russian vaccine in India also. And there are almost 4 more vaccines are under preparation in India. One of them is mRNA, the DNA, I told you, the Cadila. So this is in brief about the various types of vaccines.
So, firstly, thank you so much. I feel a lot more educated after listening to what you just mentioned, and I think it's a very simple way you've explained the 6 different approaches toward the vaccination, even though there are 250 candidates. But still, the approaches are limited to these 6 ways that you can approach. Sir, you mentioned a lot about how there is an entire spectrum, and also how the immunes. It basically all vaccinations are working on replicating the immune system in a way. And while
Stimulating the immune system
absolutely,
of the body to
absolutely,
create neutralizing antibodies.
yes, sir,
Once they latch on to the virus, they don't allow this virus to enter the cells.
right,
Because once they enter the cells, they can
right,
cause disease.
right, right. So, there have been a lot of people who've been talking about the fact, given that there are 1 crore plus people who have got infected, and there have been also people who have got infected cases in their family. They got the symptoms themselves but got tested as negative, and has been a lot of talk about the false negative reports also, that a lot of tests do throw up. And even though the RT-PCR test shows a negative report, but after some time when they get tested from the for the antigen test, the antigen test shows that there has been an immunity formed against the virus. So for these people, and this is a large number, the question is that, do these people still require the vaccination, or has their body
Those who got COVID,
yes, sir,
proven
yes,
COVID. Yes, so basically they have developed some, uh, they do develop some defense against when they get the infection. That is why, if you must have heard that, like in France, what they have said, those people who had COVID infection,
Yeah.
they did this research that need only one jab. They do not need both the jabs. So one jab, they say, the virus itself has done, the infection itself has done to create that kind of a protective
Sure.
mechanism developed in the body. Immune
Right.
system responded, and they have developed. And this happens to all of us. That
Right.
very soon we do not get the same infection again, even as influenza. We do not get it immediately in the same weather. Some people do get it if their immune system has not generated that much T cells and B cells. So they might get it if their immunity is down, and like elderly age group people do not uh, their body do not respond to these uh, insults so well as young people. So their response, and that's why even after vaccination, some people may still get infection, but it will be less severe. I think that is the advantage. It may not have
Right.
overt severe disease. So they will need, and whatever studies have been done, and they are published now in various journals like Science Immunology and all, they have followed these patients who got infection for nearly 8 months, and they found that these neutralizing antibodies were present until 8 months.
Sure.
But there's on a small number of individuals, but that gives an idea that this immunity is at least there until 8 months,
Sure.
6 to 8 months.
So similar is it for the vaccination as well, which is basically one is that whether you need the two jabs or not, and that also I'm assuming depends on the kind of vaccination because like J&J has just launched a vaccination which has got approved for emergency and that requires only one jab. So in that case, how does it differ? Like, will all the vaccinations require only one jab for the people who got already got infected, or after 8 months should they look for a vaccination because saying that till then they have their own natural immunity and after that they require it. So what is the best approach for these people to go ahead and in India especially?
Those who did not, they need to get both the doses. Uh, the duration in India, what we have decided to give it at 20 days, 8 days interval, both Covaxin and Covishield. It can be 6 weeks also. Now WHO has given a guideline based on some evidence that you give one dose and you can space the duration, the period of the second jab to 8 weeks, or also you can prolong it to 12 weeks. So one injection also gives immunity, protective immunity, but the booster strengthens that immunity. So booster is needed, like all other vaccine. Like if you get tetanus first time, you get day zero one injection. After 6 weeks, another injection, and then 6 months, another injection for a at least 5 year immunity. That is known for tetanus toxoid, what we get. But since we see influenza virus, which is common virus, uh, flu shot, what we call, people take, and that immunity lasts for a year or so, and not in everyone. Everyone doesn't respond. So that is what efficacy is all about. That one is that it is vaccines should be safe. So all these vaccines, whether Covishield, Covaxin, Moderna, Pfizer, or Johnson's, they all have got emergency use authorization for sure, because a lot of questions like longevity of their protection
Mm-hmm.
is yet not known, because not 6 months have not elapsed before these vaccinations have begun. They have just begun in December. So it will take time before data will be generated in next after 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and then after 1 year. So these trials will go on. Actually, those who have participated in this trial will be followed up for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. And that is the reason, that is what I was saying, why vaccine development takes time, because these trials take time to answer all the questions which are put forward. And then again, not all age groups were included in the trials. Like children were not included in less than 18 years were not included in these trials. 80 plus people were not included in these trials. That is the reason pregnant women were not included in this trial, because if you include everyone, that takes time then. And that is why these trials do take time. And that's why when we ask them how they can develop vaccine, because they say which group the infection is affecting most. So it is what was seen with initial experience in Europe and USA, that it is affecting elderly with comorbidities. So they recruited those kind of people more than others, because mortality was also higher in that group. More people were dying in that age group with those diseases. That's why they focused on that group, because what we have seen so far, the children, even if they have got infection, but their infection was not severe in 99.9% children. We have not seen that happening anywhere, neither in India nor.
Sure. Absolutely, sir. So I'll take, I'll take one word that you mentioned, which is the trial, right? So there is a majority, there's a lot of population that believes that, this is a phase in which the vaccination has a lot of unsolved answers or unanswered questions, and therefore some people are saying that, I do not want to get vaccinated right now, because all the answers are not there. Whether it is safe for me or not, I do not know completely. Whether it is going to last more than a year or not, even that is not clear. So isse to acha hai that I will not get vaccinated only. And we have also seen that people have now, even though, the prime minister has at multiple occasions mentioned that we still need to follow social distancing, we need to wear masks, sanitize, wash our hands, but people have, somehow felt the need that let me go out, अगर मुझे हो जाता है, my natural immunity will form for it, and that is a much better scenario than getting vaccinated, because there are a lot of unknowns there. So sir, what would you tell the people who are thinking of not getting vaccinated? Is it okay, and what are the things that they should therefore watch out for? And third thing is that should they be going with this approach of, a sort of a herd immunity approach, which is like, let me now live a normal life, and हो गया तो देखी जाएगी.
Just put on and I'll come back.
Yes.
Just give me a second.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So for those who have just joined us, we were discussing with Dr. MC Misra about the COVID-19 vaccination. He spoke about how vaccination works. How is it different than medication? The 6 different approaches towards how vaccinations are built. We spoke about the 250 options that are getting built for the vaccination right now. Two of them have been approved in India. Some of them have been approved globally for emergency use. We also spoke about, how if someone has got coronavirus already, and does that person have an immunity for it? Does that person need to get vaccinated at all or not? So this is what we discussed till now. So for those who have joined us as of now, Dr. Mishra, yes. So we were talking about the trial part. Yes.
What if we leave the large population to be exposed to the virus, and then let them develop immunity?
Yes.
This concept, if you remember, last year in January was put forward by British Prime Minister. Herd immunity, what we call. Let the infection happen and let people develop their own immunity.
Right.
But that is, he was severely criticized for this comment. For the simple reason, we cannot allow this to happen, because we have seen that so far 2.5 million plus people have died from this disease around the globe. In India, almost 156,000 people have lost their lives, and that is what have been reported. 1 crore 10 lakhs people have got the disease, and even if we take that, maybe 5 times this number may have got infection. So still there is a 95% population which has not been exposed to virus yet. for various reasons. They have taken precautions, they were working from home, schools were closed, markets were closed. Still, I have not visited a mall, I have not visited a restaurant in last 1 year. So you can imagine, I am still leading a restricted life. So that is the reason these vaccines help. Uh, it is true that soon after vaccination, you are not going to develop immunity. It takes time. Uh, when you get first injection, after 2 to 3 weeks of that, you will develop some antibodies, and they'll be strengthened when you get the second dose, the booster, what we call. You will develop. So your chances of getting a severe disease is reduced to very minimum, even if you get the disease. Severe disease, you will not get it. That is the biggest advantage of uh, the vaccination. And then, even if it works out of 100 people, in 70 people, uh, that's very good. Those 70 will not get infection. And then the chain of transmission, what we call संक्रमण की श्रृंखला, को उससे तोड़ने में बहुत मदद मिलती है. So what is herd immunity basically? Herd immunity is when 70 to 80% population of any geographic area gets the infection. Any infection, it may be COVID, it may be any other infection. And to allow that to happen is very risky for everyone. So that is one reason that we cannot recommend that people, it is voluntary to take vaccination or do not take vaccination for simple reason that you take vaccination for your own protection as well as protection for of your friends, your family, your parents, your grandparents at home, because you are young, nothing may happen to you. But what if you pass it on to your parent? What if you pass it on to your grandparent? So that is why we strongly opposed when there was a talk to open the schools and colleges in September. We said this mistake one should not commit. No government should commit this mistake. Even if it is a 0 year for some students, it doesn't matter. You are still alive. You can compensate for this. 1 year doesn't matter in life actually. If you look back, when I look back now, 1 year doesn't matter at all. If you are alive and well, you can compensate for it. So, and COVID has taught us many things from that perspective. People have been more conscious for their health. People have been doing household work which they were not doing it before. So a lot of things have happened. Like we are doing this webinar now, we have started doing this so often now, and we prefer this. We are conducting interviews, we are doing other meetings on this platform. So COVID has actually opened a lot of good things also. Yes, it has affected the economy, there is no doubt. It has psychosocial impact has been huge on some population, needless to say that. But we have to live with this and we have to survive this. So what I would say, any vaccine which is coming to your way, whether it's Covaxian or Covishield in India, take that vaccine. At least there are 70% chance that you may develop protection. Yes, we do not have answer to how long this protection will last, but whatever evidence we have from influenza vaccination, at least it will last for 1 year. Whatever studies so far have been done, they have seen that antibodies last for 8 months from real infection. So I think, and it will give you freedom of movement. It's precautions we still need to take because there is nothing 100% in medicine. No medicine works 100%, no vaccine works 100%. If it is an excellent vaccine, it will work 95%. And 95% or more than 70%, any vaccine which works more than 70% efficacious, we say it's an excellent vaccine. And like polio vaccine, for measles vaccine, 95% effective or efficacious. So vaccine needs to be safe, number one. And what do we mean by safety? Basically, if I'll just briefly say how the vaccine development takes place. Basically, once the vaccine was prepared, there were some animal trials are done. So this is given to the small animals. And then when they see that it is causing no harm to the animal, and also inviting immunogenicity. Immunogenicity is what I mentioned, development of these immune system, stimulating the immune system of the body by generating T cells and B cells. So that was done in all these vaccines. That was done. Once these vaccines were found safe in animals, then what we call human challenge trials. That is done on a small number of healthy volunteers. You and me, if we volunteer to get involved, and people volunteer for a small. Generally, that is sufficient. Like number of 20, 30 individuals is sufficient. But in Covaxian case, they recruited almost 400 healthy volunteers, and again randomized in two groups. So 200, 180, 180 in both the groups. The phase 1 trial was done to see the safety. In phase 1, we only, after animal testing, that is preclinical, then we give what we call it a phase 1 trial. And it was found to be safe. And when we say safe, safety means nobody died of that vaccine. That's number one criteria. That no, it was not life-threatening in any volunteer who got the vaccine in phase 1 trial. That is the most important bottom line for any drug or vaccine, that somebody should not die and develop life-threatening complication following the vaccine. So the same thing applies to the drug development. Then, once it was found very safe in phase 1, then DCGI gave permission to conduct phase 2 trial. Now, phase 2 trial, more number of healthy volunteers are recruited, and in Covaxian case, it was almost 800 individuals who volunteered, and some of them were even media people, they volunteered, and in there close to 400 in each group. And in phase 2, they also look at the immunogenicity, that is development of stimulation of immune system to produce immunity. And it was found very immunogenic. And so safety was again assessed. So it was found safe again. So safety, there is no issue after phase 1 and 2. And it was immunogenic. So that was also confirmed in phase 2. And then they began in November phase 3 trial. And that's how the Covishield was developed. That's how the Pfizer, that's how the Moderna. The only thing with Covaxin, the phase 3 trial was not yet completed in December, or by the time they were given conditional authorization for its use. And that's why there was some little controversy was generated. But its safety was not questioned. It's only whether efficacy, how much efficacious it is. I think that was the only question remaining. But in phase 2 trial, it was efficacious also. So that was done, and they have almost recruited, by that time they had recruited 30,000 volunteers, 15,000 in one arm, 15,000 in another arm. So that is where these vaccines were found to be safe and efficacious. The advantage with Covaxin has been that it is a whole virion vaccine, so it is likely to be effective against mutant viruses more than any other vaccine. That is again, it has not been proved as yet, but that is the presumption of the scientists, that it is, if at all, this will be the vaccine which will work better with mutant viruses. So that's why now, so I think they are going to announce the results on mutant viruses also very soon. And Cadila is going to come with their vaccine, which is a DNA vaccine, plasmid vaccine, by April. They'll launch it, so we'll have another vaccine. And by May, June, or even Sputnik may come in April, the Russian vaccine, which is under trial in India. So that is the phase 3 trial. And a phase 3 trial goes on. Phase 3 trial will go on for 6 months, for 1 year, for 2 years to see the long-term efficacy of this vaccine and long-term any side effect if it happens long-term, which is generally not there. Side effects, if it has to happen, the mild side effects they do happen with most vaccines, like pain at the injection site, the mild fever, mild headache, mild dizziness after the injection. That's why everybody was advised to be present in the vaccination center for half an hour, wait for half an hour, then leave. Although, like I got the injection, I didn't rest there. I came out and I went to my work. So it happens occasionally, but I think if those who have history of allergy of some kind and elderly people, if they must wait there for half an hour, uh, so that anything immediate reaction, hypersensitivity reaction will happen immediate. It will not happen after 24 hours or 12 hours. That will happen. But other like fever and body ache, headache can happen after a few hours also. So that is something which happens, and it was not very common, but it did happen to some people.
Sure, sure, sir. We spoke about the phase one and phase two trials, and we also spoke about the recruitment of healthy people. Now, the vaccination, as of now, is available, or basically it started in the private hospitals also for people above 60 and people with comorbidities in the age group of 45 plus to 59. Now, for them, since it is a, first they are being put in the queue, but from a trial point of view, do you think there are enough results to say that it is safe for them as well?
Yes, because uh, all the trials included individuals. Like I participated in Covaxian trial. So I took my first injection on 5th of December, second on 2nd of January. There was people above the age of 60 up to the age of 80 were included in the trial, phase 3 trial. People with comorbidities were included in the trial, except the children. Now children are being included now, and pregnant women are being included now. But whatever experience now from US has come out about these vaccines, there the Covishield trial is also on in US right now, and Pfizer and Moderna trials are on. Phase 3 trial for long-term efficacy, they are still on. So it is safe, what they say, for pregnant and lactating women also, these vaccines. And in India, uh, Covishield and Covaxin, all age groups, people except children and pregnant and lactating mothers can take these vaccines very comfortably without much uh, thinking or without any fear. They can go and take, and it is absolutely safe. And if it may give protection for 6 months, that we don't know, or 8 months, or 1 year, that we will know with passage of time. These are the answers which take time to
Sure.
come out.
Sure, sir. So I think that's very comforting to know for a lot of people who are doubting in terms of whether the vaccination is safe for all ages. Even sir, this is the same thing for people with comorbidities also, like someone who has
Absolutely.
diabetes, etc.
Actually, people anyway, because if they develop infection, it is much more severe in these people, and the mortality also was higher in this group of people who had comorbidity. Like diabetes was a huge risk factor for severe disease, hypertension, and those problem. So anybody who is on dialysis, anybody, obviously their response, immune system response would be not as robust as happen in a healthy individual. But they will develop some immunity. So even if they get infection, it will not be that severe. So it will prevent severe infection from happening in these people. So they must take those who have diabetes, hypertension, uh, lung problem, heart problem, liver disease, kidney disease, on dialysis, organ transplant, cancer treatment, because immunity on all these individuals is compromised from the beginning. So, and they may not have that much immune response also to the vaccine, but whatever response they get, the only rider is somebody who has had, say, COVID infection or plasma therapy during COVID infection should take it after 4 weeks of recovery. Similarly, others also, if that happens, somebody has undergone operation, so wait for some time, you recover, and then you can take the vaccine. So wait for some time, and then one can take the vaccine.
Sure, sir. I think that's an important point, especially for people who have just got over the disease. For them as well, would you say the same thing that they should wait a little before they take the vaccination because they have just recovered from it?
That's right.
Sure.
Wait for 4 weeks. So
Okay.
basically, uh, what people must remember that the Covishield Covaxian have have almost 100% efficacy in preventing death due to COVID. People must take this. Very high efficacy against severe COVID, high to moderate efficacy against symptomatic COVID. Only thing we don't know about asymptomatic patients, but they are not really concerned.
Right,
So
right.
people should not run after efficacy data while choosing a vaccine, because all vaccines prevent severe COVID and death. Vaccination of large population is important, as I mentioned,
Right.
to build herd immunity. If we want to save the a lot of people from
Sure.
getting the disease,
Sure.
and so as many people as should be, we would want that should be vaccinated. Naturally,
Sure.
everyone can't be vaccinated immediately,
Mm.
so people must wait for their turn.
Sure.
Right now, it is for 45 to 60 with comorbidities.
Sure.
Plus 60 plus, anybody can go and take.
Sure.
And there have been trial, as I mentioned, in US where 10,000 pregnant women have received the vaccine without any problem.
Sure, sir.
So I think it is what I would say, it is reassuring
Right,
that
right.
people should not have these fears in their minds.
Right. I think, sir, you've made some very important, given some very important information, right, in what you answered just now. Some very important statements as well, which is, that people who have got the disease, recovered from it, while they may have, a long-term immunity, like for till 8 months, but they also should get the jab, right? The second thing that you mentioned is that people who are thinking that I should not get the vaccination because I can, just probably rely on herd immunity. But herd immunity to build itself will take some time. And to support that, all of us have to get together and make sure that we are, increasing our immunity against it, or basically getting some kind of antigens for it. And that's the whole idea of the vaccination as well. The third and the most important statement, I think, for me also, is the fact that don't run after the efficacy data only, because that prevents you. What we are trying to say out here is going to prevent you against death or any kind of severe coronavirus infection. So I think those are very important things that people can get out of what we just interacted. Now, sir, I want to ask something on behalf of people who are planning to get vaccinated and who are actually standing in queue, or wanting ki when am I going to get when is it going to open up for me? So while we know there is a huge number of people already in the age group that are allowed right now, and for the people with comorbidities, but for other people, the rest of the population, what is your assessment that what when would people be able to, so a healthy person under 45, when would they be able to get the vaccination?
I'm sure. I think during the month of March,
Sure.
we would see the response of 45-60 group and 60 plus group. And once that is clear, then vaccination strategy will again be modified to involve to get everyone on board. If lot of people come, because target is that by July, August, we want to cover 30 crore population.
Okay.
And if suppose not very many people are coming forward, then we can then open up for others. I'm sure government will take a call.
Sure.
The committee will take a call to allow whosoever wants to get it vaccinated, because now
Sure.
it has been allowed in
Right.
private sector also at a nominal cost.
Right.
So that would help. The one
Right.
more thing, Tanya, I would like to say that this is the usual question that people, those who have allergy to
Mm.
some food or drug or
Mm.
some latex or some venom or something,
Mm.
uh, so they can also take COVID vaccine. Only
Okay.
thing, they need to remain there at the vaccination center for half an hour. Uh, that's all. The only people where somebody has a very severe history of anaphylaxis. Anaphylaxis means for uh, any vaccine or any drug in the past, they can avoid, and they should avoid COVID vaccine. But basically, uh, as I mentioned, that those who have had COVID, they should wait for 4 to 6 weeks to recover, and they may just do with one shot of vaccine because they already have robust neutralizing antibodies following COVID infection. Strong T cell and B cell responses have been found. So again, the same thing applies for
Sure.
plasma therapy, and those who were admitted in hospital and had severe COVID and they remained in hospital for longer period can wait for at least 6 to 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and then if they have to take, they can take that vaccine. So people, and another question which generally people ask, if some people are on blood thinners, then they can take. Some people may be taking steroids for their as a immunosuppressive drug. So just reduce the dose of steroid which they are taking per day to say less than 10 milligram, and then they can take the vaccine. Because if they are taking steroid and they get the vaccine, the immune response may not be optimal. So that is something which,
Sure.
but who are taking inhalers for
Sure.
like bronchial asthma, they may keep taking it and take the
Sure.
vaccine also. So
Sure.
that does affect the bioavailability
Okay.
of the vaccine.
So any drug that basically you're already taking that is suppressing your immune system, that to support your vaccination to work better is what you're saying. We can reduce for a few days, is it, or for a few weeks?
Yeah, basically like for steroids, it is said they bring down the dose to around 7.5 milligram per
Sure.
day.
Okay.
Then some people also might be taking a drug called methotrexate,
Sure.
which is also an immunosuppressive drug, and they again stop this drug 2 weeks before vaccination. Then again, there are certain drugs in other cancers like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and other. So just avoid after 4 weeks of last dose, they can take the vaccine.
Sure, sure, sir. Sir, so we are at the end of our session. So one last question, which we've got from people is that how do I choose between Covaxin and Covishield? So as of now, our research, what we've been hearing in the news is that when you're choosing your center while booking your appointment on Arogya Setu or on Covin app, you can choose your center, and that is what decides which vaccination you're opting for,
That's right.
right? So is that correct? Is
Yeah,
that
both
is
the vaccines are equally safe. They
sure,
are equally efficacious. So need not to worry about
sure.
which vaccine is coming in your way. Take that. I think
Okay.
take the vaccine, that is much more important than which vaccine.
Which vaccine?
So
Okay,
I think that is far more important than which
sure.
vaccine.
So are there
So
any quick points, how you would want people to compare these two, if at all, or you're
no,
saying that do not compare it
there's
at
no
all?
point. They can only after 2 weeks of second injection
Hmm.
of vaccine, they can, if they want, they can test their antibody
Sure.
and see whether they have developed or not
Sure.
antibodies.
Sure.
Like somebody conveyed to me that she's a doctor and she got somewhere one of the vaccines, and when she tested there were no antibodies. So that can happen.
Right.
Because when we are saying 70% efficacious, that means that there's some 30% of the individuals may not develop. That's why we are saying the precautions
Right.
must be observed even after vaccination, because you don't know whether you have developed immunity or not. So
Sure.
that can give you some idea and confidence
Sure.
basically. If you
Sure.
have developed antibodies, you will be more confident. But
Okay.
precautions you will still keep taking so that
Sure.
you do not become individual to transmit the infection.
Absolutely. So,
Uh,
so,
but
sir, if my antibodies test says that I have antibodies, so do I have to regularly get it checked, or
no, not
I
regularly.
don't
That
have to?
that that once only. If you just want
Okay.
to
And
do
if I
that,
have not developed the antibodies, does that
then
mean that I can
maybe you
try
can go.
another
Yeah,
company?
then
Yeah.
you can take the other vaccine.
Okay. And that is not harmful
Suppose
having one
suppose I
after the
took
other?
Covaxian and I have not developed antibodies after 2 weeks of the second shot,
Sure.
then maybe I should then think of taking Covaxian.
Sure. Sure.
Or if other vaccines are available, because I might develop immunity following that different vaccine.
Okay. Okay.
But both the injections, when you are taking the vaccine, then it should be the same vaccine, the first injection and the second injection.
Right. So, but if after the first and second vaccine injection also I don't develop, then I can actually look in for another
Yeah, then
vaccination.
if you don't develop, then you can look for the another alternative vaccine.
Okay, okay. But I'm assuming that all of this data is also yet to be seen because
Yeah,
this is
a
all
lot of
very
things need to be, still we need a lot of answers,
right.
which will be available with passage of time
Sure,
as the time goes by, because the research is on, it is
sure,
going on. It's only emergency use authorization
sure,
looking at the pandemic.
sure.
So otherwise, none of them would have got, before answering all the questions, none of them would have been
Right,
approved.
right,
So
right,
this is an extraordinary situation, calls for extraordinary measures, and
right,
if it can break the chain of transmission,
right,
I think it's worth trying that. At
right,
least if it is not harming,
right,
if it is not harming us, then we should cooperate and we should volunteer. Other, I would say more and more people should volunteer for the trial actually,
right,
whichever trial is happening, because at the end of the day, how does these medicines are developed? They are developed from the trials only. If some
right,
people have courage and they have volunteered, that's how these things come out.
right,
So
right.
we have to have that feel responsible to help the researchers in developing vaccines and drugs.
Sure,
India, it has not been happening, but I am sure with this, it will start. People will start thinking that they need to help for the society
sure,
at, at large.
sure. Right, sir. So, sir, just one closing question. We have someone asking us that, if I get vaccinated, I have the immunity. Does that mean that I cannot transfer it to anyone else now? Does that hold true?
Yeah, because it is unlikely that he'll have a symptomatic disease. And if he is not having symptomatic disease, because if he gets some viral particles, they'll be immediately neutralized.
Sure,
So it will be unlikely that he will transmit the disease.
sure,
But we don't know this also. So I think
absolutely.
that's why we are saying is still we continue to observe the preventive measures, and they are simple.
Right,
The mask is simple, and when you put mask, then you actually avoid touching your face inadvertently, which we all do.
right,
Somebody say studied that we touch our face 50 to 100 times in a day.
right,
So that is also avoided
right,
unnecessarily.
right,
So,
right,
and then distancing as much as possible. But if you put on mask, the distance also comes down.
right,
Uh, you may still be safe.
right, right, sir.
That is very, very important. And of
Sure,
course, hand hygiene. Whenever you come from outside, wash your hands.
right,
Soap with soap only.
Right.
Do not use a lot of sanitizer. Just use common soap and water
Right.
at home.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. I can personally say that, I have been someone who's reading about coronavirus vaccinations, uh, very, very, very regularly. But the amount of information and clarity that I've got from today's session, it's personally also helpful for me. So thank you so much for sparing this 1 hour.
And
And I think this is
did we
really going to
record
help
it or
people.
not?
Yes, sir.
Did we record it or not?
Yes, yes, we are live and we've recorded it, and
Yeah, so
it will be available for our customers.
yeah, put it on the web.
Yes, yes. So it will be available for everyone who's not joined us. It's going to be available for them. So thank you everyone, whoever came to the session, live session. And we had a great chat with Dr. Mishra. We spoke about what the vaccination does, how is it different than medication, how do different vaccine makers approach the vaccination creation process. That was very enriching. And also, we answered questions for people who are thinking that they do not want to get vaccinated, for the ones who want to get vaccinated but are having doubts on its safety, efficacy. I think there were some very uh, clear way of thinking that we looked at with Dr. Mishra. So hope we have got some clarity on it. And as Dr. Mishra said, that there are a lot of questions unanswered till now, because I don't think so. This kind of situation has been faced by anyone living on this planet as of now, ever. So this is a very unique situation that we are in, right? So which is why there are a lot of questions unanswered. But I think in terms of safety, we have some clarity that the vaccinations are safe, and people who can must go and get the vaccinations done. And as we go ahead, there will be lot many other vaccinations also that will be available to us. So that is always an option. So yeah, stay safe and wear your masks, keep washing your hands, uh, stay socially distanced as much as possible. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you again, Dr. Mishra,
Thank you.
for
Take
joining us.
care and keep safe.
Yes.
Everyone keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much.